Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Big P here, the voice of hardcore boxing. Today I'm joined by the legendary Ozzonator from the Boxing Asylum YouTube. How's it going, Ozzy?
Yeah, very good, Ross. How are you?
You've got some steam coming there. Is it from a cuppa?
It is, mate. Yeah, representing all the time.
Focus Corner Cup. There's none left anyway. Unless they don't get them off YouTube, that's not to do with me. Don't buy them. Ozzy, do you prefer Ozzy, Oswald, or Big Hearted Oz?
Ozzy's fine, mate.
Have you heard that Big Hearted Oz joke when Ozzy on Off Either saying was smuggling, or Oz they call him, pornos in coffin? Have you seen them? That's episode.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, if you were gonna describe a boxer, Ozzy, like an Off Either saying pet character, who would you put Fury next to? I'd put him next to Oz, me.
Yeah, well, I've never watched it, so I can't really answer that question because I haven't got a clue what that program's like.
Yeah. You'd put Adam Smith as Neville, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. If that's what you're saying, then yeah, why not?
How old are you, Ozzy?
30.
Oh, God, you won't remember Off Either saying pet, will you?
No, mate, no.
Yeah, it'd be like that Wayne, wouldn't he, thinking he's Jack the Lad. But anyway, into the boxing business chat. Fury sozzled at the Joe Joyce fight. What did you make of it? The whole carry on the evening? From fight to finish.
Do you mean the Fury escapade with Joshua, all the fights he keeps calling out, that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
It's a bit boring now, isn't it? Yeah. You kind of know what Tyson Fury's going to do. He calls for one thing. I think it caught everybody off guard a little bit when he caught, basically they made this offer to Joshua and it wasn't, one of these derisory 80-20 splits type of thing where, you're just trying to do something for the sake of it. He made a fair offer, 60-40. Queensbury and Matchroom met, which is, a massive positive given that, basically communications between them has been dire for years. But I think a big difference has been George Warren's come on the scene. Now, he's always worked behind the scenes at Queensbury before, but he seems to have taken more of a vocal point this time round, and that's worked. And then Fury, there's some people saying, as he tried to call a bluff, a little bit, we'll make Joshua this offer and he's going to say no, and they've run with it. Anyway, I mean, he's done another U-turn today, hasn't he, saying Frank Warren's persuaded him to allow negotiations to continue. For me, it's a no-brainer. If Usyk's not on the table, the biggest fight for Tyson Fury out there is probably Anthony Joshua. I'd have been all up for the Joe Joyce fight. I just don't see that happening. I think that's a bad fight for Tyson Fury, to be honest. But the positive thing is now talks are continuing. I don't buy all this bullshit that Fury's allowing it to carry on. I mean, I think this Manuel Charr thing seems a bit far-fetched, very convenient. But ultimately, no one wants to see Tyson Fury against Manuel Charr. I don't care if it's a tick over or not.
Yeah. Matthew Macklin's come out and said he won't watch it on the IFL.
I don't blame him. Yeah, can you pause it a minute? I just need to go and nip downstairs. Someone's at the door.
Well then.
Yep.
Ozzy Smith, call girl at the door for him. Knowing Ozzy, it'll be Amazon with some of his bought in sale. Yeah, I was reading this earlier. Do you remember him, Jamie McDonnell? Jamie McDonnell versus Seizure. Good magazine, this. Easy one for me today. Work from home like Ozzy. I'm going to stick this on that I found under bed. What do you reckon? What do you reckon to this, Frank? Up, Ozzy. Found it under bed, charged it. Old DVD player for when I used to be on Stakeout.
Yeah, good that. Good, right, I'm done. It went post office.
Death Race, Jason 2000. Have you seen that, Ozzy?
Which one?
Death Race, Jason Statham.
I have, yeah.
Right, so basically you were going on about George Warren. He looks like he's a mover and a shaker, and he looks like he were doing well with...
Yeah, does things the right way, doesn't he? You can tell...
He doesn't seem a loudmouth, does he, George Warren, does he?
Yeah, I think you can tell with Frank that he's... I wouldn't say bitter, but he's just got an utter dislike towards anything Matchroom.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's because of all the history, and I can get that. Whereas George Warren, he's not necessarily had the same experiences as such, but he ticks along in the background nicely.
Yeah.
He's not all for, you know, publicising every word he has, you know, in negotiations. If he has an interview, it's straight to the point, and he reveals. And, you know, when you've got Hearn agreeing with a rival promoter, it's a rarity, that, isn't it? So, yeah. Hopefully it gets made. I think everybody wants to see it. I think, you know, look, as a boxing fan, you want to see Fury against Alexander Usyk. That's not going to happen. They've said Usyk's not ready. You know, he's got an injury. He's had a long camp, a lot going on. That's fine. So ultimately, go and make Anthony Joshua. And if you can't make the Joshua fight, make Joe Joyce. None of this rubbish, you know, that Manuel Char type of stuff. I don't even believe in it as a tick over, keep busy. Why give someone like Manuel Char the opportunity to fight for a world title? The only way I'd accept Char as an opponent is if it's a non-title 10-rounder, from where that is a genuine tick over. Don't just give somebody an opportunity to contest for a belt because you know you're going to bang them out.
Not right.
He's not even ranked. Char's not even ranked with the WBC.
So that's why I think it's a smokescreen, mate. You might have signed a deal with Frank Warren, a free fight deal. We don't mean say they're going to put him in with Fury, does it?
There's more chance of Char fighting Dubois.
Yeah, I agree. What do you reckon to Dillian Whyte? Where does he fit in all this?
Well, bizarrely, I mean, his name's always going to carry a bit of clout. You know, the machine that he had behind him in his career has made him into this somewhat name without having, you know, he's never won a world title. I don't think he's ever won a European title, actually. And people, you know, up until the Fury fight, you know, were confidently backing Dillian Whyte, a lot of people. He's always going to have fights available. You know, I still say the Chisora rematch is there again. You know, if that's going to go on a Matchroom card, I think the Joseph Parker fight is there. The one I'd like to see is him chuck him in with Daniel Dubois. What a good fight that'd be. I think Dubois would knock him out. It's not saying a lot really because White's shown vulnerabilities now, and once he's hurt, it's rare he gets back up. Particularly recently, you know, after the Povetkin and the Fury knockouts. But I still think he does carry a bit of threat. He's just changed trainers as well. Gone to Buddy McGirt now, which I think's a big move for him. And I think he's realised that something's got to change, and he doesn't need yes men in his corner. He needs somebody who's going to tell him what to do. And I think the last person to do that for him was Mark Tibbs. Yeah. And I think you saw under Mark Tibbs that you saw big improvements from Whyte in terms of his overall boxing ability. And then bizarrely, he just knocked Tibbs on the head. And I actually think you've seen him go down a peg or two because he didn't have that, you know, that structure, and a proper trainer who won't he won't be a yes man in the corner.
No, Mark Tibbs just tells him straight, like his dad, doesn't he?
Exactly. And his record speaks for itself, Tibbs. You know, Jimmy Tibbs is still involved, who, you know, done some fantastic things. I still say it was the only person to have Billy Joe Saunders, you know, under real control for the longest part of his career. Saunders has bobbed around different gyms since. And look, I think he bought into the Ingle way as such in terms of, you know, he got in good shape and things like that. But he also dicked around in Sheffield quite a lot and had all that problems, you know, bullying people, you know, on the streets, and it backfired on him. And then he went to Ben Davidson for a bit, you know, moving around all sorts of things. So I think the Tibbs gym, you know, is well respected. But, you know, you've got to give Whyte credit. You know, if he's realised that something needs to change after that Fury fight, he's done that. He's gone with Buddy McGirt. It's going to be interesting to see where they're going to be based. Is he going to go out to America? Is McGirt going to base himself over here for camp? I don't know. Or are they going to go out to Portugal, like Whyte likes to do?
Right, he's out there for tax reasons, isn't he?
I've not a clue. I don't know. I've got to admit, I don't know why he goes there. I don't know what the tax rules are in Portugal, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think he's got a bit of property out there, that sort of stuff, and he's got a proper base out there. But aside from that, I'm not sure why he does. But yeah, he goes out there. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. But White's got a name from where he's always going to command fights, because I keep saying that there's not the depth in the heavyweight division from where, you know, there's, I won't say a clear top 10, but if you were to ask 100 people, I think you'd get different top 10s for various different reasons. And White's always going to be there and thereabouts as such in your top 10, 15. And ultimately, he's got a name from where if he said to Frank Warren, I want to sign a 3-fight deal with you, Frank could do it, Boxer would do it, and Sky, and so would Matchroom again. Because bizarrely, for what Matchroom did in his career and built him up as this, bizarrely, this pay-per-view star for not having the pay-per-view fights. Yeah, and he's not had the pay-per-view fights realistically, but his name does carry clout. So yeah, he's still got a place in the division. I don't think he's great, but I think he'll beat, your European level fighters. But the fight I'd love to see is him and Dubois. I think that'd be a really good one. But I just don't think it's going to happen. The talk is he's going to sign with Matchroom again. Who they're going to match him with there, I'm not sure. There's no obvious heavyweights there.
I'm filming. I'll call you back. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
There's no obvious heavyweights with Matchroom, is there? He's not going to put him in with Joshua. I can't see him putting him in with, any of the younger lads at the moment. And Hearn ruled out the Chisora fight pretty much early on in terms of a rematch. So I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to try and maneuver him into a situation? The Dubois fight, for me, is the best road back to get into, world level as such and up in those rankings. If you knock Dubois out or you beat him, you've got that regular title. All it takes is the WBA to call a mandatory, and that is you being that belt holder. Anything else? Is he going to go through the hassle of eliminators, final eliminators? I'm not so sure, because White now is at a stage from where it's all about money for him. He'll just go to the highest bidder, I think, because he's earned a fortune. I think he got 8 million quid to fight Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
he'd have earned millions beforehand, for various fights that he's had, add up all the purses. He's set for life. So for me, I think he's just going to go to the highest bidder as such, and who'll pay him the most dough. Queensbury couldn't do that with Dubois. I think he wanted 3 or 4 million to fight Dubois, and I'm sorry, that's just unrealistic. You want 50% of the purse that you got to fight at Wembley, to fight probably at the O2. I'm not having he's getting 4 million quid anywhere else for that. No chance. Absolutely no chance.
Title,
yeah. Do you know what? He would, if he got an opportunity to fight for a world title and they offered him 2, he'd snap their hands off that. But there's a belt on the line. I get it's not a full world title, but to say you want 4 million, that's where I say, you don't fancy it, or you want obscene money to take a fight that you could get beaten. Not, I'll take it because it's a fair price. I think he's just pricing himself out. 4 million quid package it was, not cash. So, but that'll be tickets, all sorts, yeah.
What about Chisora? Where do you see his role in all this now, Parker?
Oh, well, he just keeps on going, doesn't he? I do think he's becoming a bit irrelevant now as such. He got that win over Pulev, but I don't think it was a particularly decent fight. I think a lot of people had Pulev winning. But to be fair to Chisora, in the early days of his career, he has had some stinkers go against him. Hellenius on the road out for that European title comes to mind straight away. He didn't lose that fight. Dillian Whyte won. Dillian Whyte won. He felt he won that as well. But again, he's just at that gatekeeper level. But again, he's got this name and this clout from where, yeah, he's doing quite well. I think somebody's at door again. One sec.
No problem.
Fucking packages, mate. Packages.
The perils of living in a fancy area like Ozzy. You don't go to shop, you just ring Amazon. Some people are not believing their houses, Ozzy, will they?
Oh, mate, honestly, same postman. He forgot to bring a parcel with him.
They want Tony Thornton, or who Eubank beat. Remember him?
Who, sorry?
Tony Thornton, postman, who Eubank beat.
Oh, hi, yeah.
He kept forgetting parcels. How do you think Eddie Hills is going to come out this if it doesn't happen? This Joshua Fury fight.
I don't know. I think it all depends on what gets revealed and what doesn't. I think Fury's come out and said they basically adhered to everything that they want on the face of it. So if that's the case, there should be nothing that holds this up. Team Joshua have had the contract now for coming probably up to 2 weeks. Apparently, a version's not been sent back yet. I get these things take time, but the fundamentals of it have been agreed. So you've got to think it's the nitty gritty stuff. Apparently, all the broadcasters are singing off the same hymn sheet as well. Whilst DAZN have got this exclusive deal with Joshua, they're a small part of the pie in this, because ultimately, if they're going to do a dual broadcast, something like that, who is going to order on DAZN over BT? It's too much hassle. It's too much hassle. Well, honestly, so you've got to download the app, which I get. £8. Yeah, £8 to subscribe, and then whatever the price is on top. So the Conor Benn Chris Eubank pay-per-view, that, if you are not a subscriber, will cost you £28 because you've got to subscribe and then buy the pay-per-view on top.
It'll be £48, won't it?
Well, no, I think they'll price Fury Joshua at probably £30 personally.
It'll be 38 all round.
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah. Well, but what the big issue is as well is that you've got to enter like payment details then on the app.
You've got to verify. I've seen it.
You've got to verify stuff, and it just takes time. Whereas on BT, you can order through your remote still. So if you've had a few beers and you come back with a couple of mates or on your own, right? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to watch it. 3 clicks of a red button and you're done. You're watching it straight away. So I think DAZN are a small part of the pie, and I think they'll recognise that, because the other thing they can't do is DAZN can't show it in pubs either.
Yeah.
They've not got that. They've not got those deals with the pubs from where, and the licensing agreements from where it can be done. And can you imagine a pub trying to set up an app, to try and make it work? It's going to be too much hassle. Just pay through BT because it's easy, because they already subscribe with them. So I don't know how Hearn will come out with it overall. I would say he's been bullish in a sense that he keeps calling out Fury and saying he doesn't want the fight. But ultimately, everything Hearn says about Fury is wrong. He always tips him to get beat. He always tips him to get knocked out. And he ends up with egg on his face all the time. And as comes back with his tail between his legs saying, well, I genuinely believe Dillian Whyte would knock him out. Well, yeah, come on, really. He's finally admitted that Fury's the best heavyweight in the world, but he can't not. And now he's saying he's always believed the Char fight was happening. We'll wait and see what happens. But, from what's come out today, and we're filming this obviously on a Thursday, Fury is keen to proceed with the negotiations. Everything seems to be singing off the same hymn sheet. It's just going to be a timing factor. Now, what I won't buy is if it's been left too late. These guys should be in camp now, in for it, because they keep saying Tyson's going to box in December anyway, so they should be in camp for it. They've nothing to worry about selling tickets for this. This could go on sale 3 weeks out from the fight and would sell out within an hour, 2 hours. No, not even that, mate. It is the biggest British box heavyweight fight, I'd say, in history, in terms of the size of the fight, where it's going to be, tickets sold. Fury did 90,000 or something like that against Dillian Whyte, and that was announced quite late as well. They didn't have like a 3-month build up to it. They've nothing to worry about that. I get the World Cup's on, but from the date they've said it's not going to clash with any England fixtures, that sort of stuff. They have nothing to worry about in terms of selling tickets and marketing it. This fight sells itself. You could walk down the street and go, have you heard of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua? Yeah, I know them both. They're fighting in 3 weeks. Are you going to watch it? 9 times out of 10, people will say yeah. So what I won't buy personally is we've run out of time to market it. This fight sells itself. And if you can't sell this at, 6-7 weeks notice, you shouldn't need 12 weeks. This is as close to a super fight as it gets for me.
Yeah.
Or it is a super fight in many people's eyes.
Eddie Hearn come out and he said he's the arena king, open air fights and all that. But if you look at Frank Warren's box rec, he's done a lot more than him over the years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think people forget that. Ultimately, a lot of boxing fans who you see online now, of the Twitter age and stuff, they're quite relatively new to it. And they'll always remember Hearn coming onto Sky and doing these big things, Froch Groves, that sort of stuff. And that is new to them. People forget Frank's been around for years, done big shows at football stadiums before. It's nothing new to him. People forget, he did Hey Chisora at Upton Park on Box Nation. People forget about that.
Calzaghe, it was a big fight with him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done Calzaghe. I think he did. Did he do a Hatton fight at the Etihad? I can't remember if he was. No, he wasn't with Hatton. Wasn't with Frank at that point. Yeah. But you know, he's not no stranger to it. Yeah, you can argue that over probably the last 5 years, Hearn has been, the premium promoter in the UK. I think you'd be incredibly naive to say that, but I'd say the tides are certainly the tides are turning, particularly more recently as well, on the basis of, Hearn's got all these other, avenues in like Spain, Italy, going out to Australia. And I think his UK shows are suffering for it. He's barely put a decent card on this year, and people are pointing this out. We're coming off that BT, albeit it was a pay-per-view, but that was a good pay-per-view. The main fight overall probably wasn't pay-per-view worthy, but pay-per-view from what it was 10, 15 years ago to now has changed. A lot of fighters feel they see that pay-per-view money and they feel they deserve it. And that is what changes it now. When the purses are that, they're that big, it's a problem. So they're going to chuck fights that necessarily aren't pay-per-view on it to help generate the funds. But the big difference on this BT one is there was depth to the card, real depth to it. There was probably 5 or 6 genuine, 50-50s, 60-40s on there. The main event was a genuine flip of a coin, I felt. When it was announced, I thought Joe Joyce would win. And then as it went on, I thought Parker could actually pose more problems. And in the end, I didn't have a clue. Thought it was a great performance by Joe Joyce, but there was other fights on the card as well that were proper 50-50s. And as a boxing fan, that's what you want. If you're spending 20 quid, you don't want to see a good main event and then just tripe on the undercard, because it's boring. Now, a lot of people won't go for the undercard, but if I'm paying 20 quid, now for Fury Joshua, I ain't fussed about the undercard personally. I think that's a fight that everybody wants to see and would pay money just to watch that, and maybe a fight underneath it at best. But for Joyce Parker, which is a good fight, but it's not a massive fight, that's where you need a supporting card. And I'd say this is the first time in a long time, particularly in the UK, that we've had a pay-per-view card of that depth and pretty decent quality. And long may it continue.
Yeah. Good points raised there, Ozzy. Where do you see Wilder now, though, in all this? Because his name doesn't seem to get mentioned by anybody, right, does it?
Fighting Robert Helenius, isn't he? But ultimately, apart from Tyson Fury, who the hell wants to fight him?
Dillian Whyte,
they'll keep Dubois well away from him, no chance. And I think the Joyce fight is potentially there. Now, I think what they're going to do
is... Would you pay for that, Ozzy, on pay-per-view?
Yeah. Well, I don't buy pay-per-views. I source them by other mechanisms. But yeah, look, I'm not saying Joe Joyce is a pay-per-view name. He's not. But I think to bring Wilder over, you'd need that additional income. But I think that's a fight everybody can get behind and can buy into. You've got Joyce as a juggernaut. He walks people down and has got this fucking unbelievable chin. Like, arguably one of the best you've seen in the sport. And you've got Wilder, who's got just dynamite in both hands. It'd be a fascinating watch. Wilder's coming back against Helenius. I think he's going to bang him out in 2 or 3 rounds, and it's going to be... I think Wilder might... Not saying he'll look his best, because, he can blitz these people and not look great, but I think it'll be a big knockout. Helenius is a big lump, but he's sluggish, pops out a jab, that old European style type of thing. I think Wilder's just going to go and obliterate him. I think they're going to try and make that Andy Ruiz fight. That's a bad fight for Andy Ruiz, really bad. I think Wilder will blitz him as well. And I think the heavyweight division is a better place with Deontay Wilder in it, a much better place.
I do. He excites me.
Exactly. Yeah, he brings excitement. He's probably one of the only heavyweights that I want to watch every one of his fights.
Yeah.
Beforehand, like I've seen some Joe Joyce and a couple of stinkers.
Yeah.
From where they're just a bit boring. Same with Joe Parker, Fury. They've never always brought excitement, whereas in pretty much every Deontay Wilder fight,
knock somebody down in every fight, hasn't he?
Exactly, yeah, mate. And even in his losses, even in his losses, mate, how much excitement has there been in it? I'd still see Fury Wilder 4. I don't think the outcome still is a foregone conclusion. Wilder has always got that opportunity. Now, Fury is shown, but I think in the third fight, I think he had a few problems outside the ring, but he was badly hurt in that third fight. But he came back and, and put on, and stopped Wilder in, pretty emphatic fashion. But, the way I see it, Wilder is, certainly in the top 4 heavyweights in the world. quality operator. I think it's disrespectful to say he's no skills. You find me another heavyweight that's knocking out people like he does, with a right hand. And it's more than just a right hand as well. You've got to set up that shot. He's not just running in, like windmilling and hope he clips him. He sets those shots up and he has got skill, It's an easy cop-out to say he's only got this. But I'll tell you what, if that's the only skill I've got, you offer it, 90% of heavyweights and they bloody take it, without a doubt.
He's Olympic bronze, and what did he have? 10, 11 defences or something, 11, 12 defences. He's not.
Yeah, look, his resume is probably not the deepest in terms of some of the fights he's had. But the big thing is he did it in the right way. He didn't, go life and death, with these substandard opponents. Look at the Dominic Breazeale one. Breazeale used to be a name that was listed on Joshua's resume all the time. And Wilder absolutely obliterated him. One of the best knockouts I've ever seen. Breazeale no longer gets listed on Joshua's resume now. And I'm thinking, well, if he was good enough to be on Joshua's resume as a good win, he should be on Deontay Wilder's as well. Look what he did to Bermane Stiverne in the rematch.
Yeah.
Absolutely obliterated him.
He didn't drop him in the first one, though, did he? Because that was a bit of a stinker, wasn't it? The first.
Yeah, I can't remember if he did drop him or not. It was boring, actually. I think we were a bit underwhelmed, weren't we, by that, the first one, the first Wilder Stiverne fight. That it went to points and it was a bit underwhelming. We were like, right, we thought he was going to blitz everybody and he's not. But then in the rematch, my God, Stiverne was like a corpse on the floor.
Fury in the second one, but then he dropped him twice in the third. But if you look through his CV, you can say that even though he had them two, he had a Fury, one where he didn't drop in, and the first Stiverne, he has still dropped everybody that he's been in with, hasn't he? At some point.
He's dropped everybody he's boxed, yeah. And the only person he's not knocked out of his boxed was Tyson Fury. Yeah. And I still think in the first fight, Fury was out cold, and it's just the way he hit the canvas that kind of woke him up a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of a result, Fury's the only one he's not knocked out. But yeah, I'm all for Wilder coming back. I'd still say he's the most exciting heavyweight in the division to watch. He's got power. He's a likable character. People will go out and watch him. I've no doubt he comes through the Helenius fight with relative ease. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I'd love to see the Joyce fight. Not sure if it happens. I think, you'll need that. Probably need a world title on the line for that to happen realistically. And they'll probably line up Andy Ruiz, keep it, PBC sort of stuff. And I think Wilder will blitz the Ruiz, absolutely blitz him.
Getting back to what we just said there about when Fury were dropped by him and he like you were out, but we banged his head. Larry Holmes said the same thing when Ernie Shavers dropped him. He says he hit him that hard. When he bounced down, he woke him up.
Kind of, well, you've seen it before in other fights, fighters literally, you can see their eyes roll up when they've been hit and they go boof. And then they hit the deck and it's like, what's gone on here? Now, they're still hurt when they get up, but yeah, it kind of gives them a shock. Pretty sure when George Groves pinned Carl Froch. Froch's eyes went, yeah, big time. And
couldn't hear a pin drop when that happened. Everybody just.
I know. Yeah, I know. Still say another 30 seconds in that round, and Froch was out of there.
Oh, he was gone, mate, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was out of there.
But yeah, what do you think is going to happen with Aram's stable now then? Because they're signing lots of people, aren't they?
Mate, top rank are always going to be here to stay. Bob Arum, arguably the best promoter to ever live, knows what he's doing. Very clever man that knows what he's got. His fingers in a lot of pies, good relationships with people, but also as well, I've got a lot of time for him, is that if a deal is there to be made, even if he is not your, best mate, he'll still make it. So, he slagged Hearn off in the press, but he has made fights with Hearn as well. And I applaud that, ultimately you're in it for a business. And if a fight makes you both money, don't let a personal grudge get in the way of making your fighters cash and you as a business owner cash as well. They put a load of cards on all the time, don't they? Some aren't great, but they're like their smaller whole development ones. And then when they do the big cards, they're up there. Shakur Stevenson, he's with them as well, going up to lightweight. Arguably, is one of the best fighters in the world, is now and will be for many years to come. I'm not going to say the future's bright because it always is with Top Rank, but they've got a lot going for them and they're here to stay.
Yeah. What do you think's happening with Adam? Boo. Where's happening?
Not a clue, to be honest. I've no idea because he's been very well. He is, isn't he? He's a quiet character. He's not, one of these that they'll go and do, like a monthly catch up with Adam Booth. I couldn't even tell you who he trains anymore. Liam Williams has gone back to Gary Lockett. I think that was a failed experiment on Williams's part. I think if you're going to go to Adam Booth, he's a trainer that requires time. He's got a very particular style, the way he fights. Look at Andy Lee as a prime example. I still don't think Andy Lee ever looked comfortable under the Booth style, but he won a world title, got some big knockouts, but it took time for him to, to get that sort of style and incorporate it into the way he fights. I couldn't even tell you who's in his camp. I think Shannon Courtney's probably still there, but who cares about her?
Eubank only lasted a week, didn't they?
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me. That I think he's got Harlem Eubank actually, who seems a bit of a talent. But yeah, honestly, I'm not actually sure. Is he with Josh Kelly still? I think Josh Kelly. I couldn't tell you what Booth's stable is now, but I think I'd say the last few years have been quite detrimental to his reputation. I think he was always seen as one of the best trainers in the UK and arguably the world. But I think a lot of performances and the way, some of his fighters have suffered losses that ultimately they shouldn't have done has probably tarred that reputation a little bit and made people think, is he as good as what people have said he is? I'm not so sure, but yeah, I've no massive opinion on it as such. He appears when he appears, but yeah, I couldn't list his stable, which, for what was once a big name trainer, so he's a bit not worrying, but I think it says a lot.
Yeah, I think in past everybody were like, "Go to Adam Booth, Dark Lord, he's the best." And then we've had the Ben Davidson period. I'm like, "Go to boxer size Ben."
Yeah, well, that's backfired on him now, hasn't it? I think all the links with MTK, Probellum, that sort of stuff. I think a lot of fighters now are having to jump ship because it's killing them, for bigger fights going forward. Josh Taylor. I don't know. Well, look, he's going to say, I don't know why he's going to say he's leaving because, he's gone to Joe McNally in Liverpool, good up and coming trainer, looks after Liam Smith, Kevin Aguiarco, improves fighters from what we've seen. He's got JJ Metcalf as well. Good fighter. Interesting move. I'd like to know why Taylor's picked him, just out of genuine interest. But yeah, for Ben Davison, what was flying high, I think he's been very fortunate in some of the results he's had. He likes to bang on how he's undefeated as a trainer for many years. Yeah, but mate, you're not throwing a punch. So yeah, you've helped create a game plan, but ultimately it is the fighter executing that game plan, not you in there. So, your team is undefeated as such, and my team of fighters, not you. Stop making it all about you. But then, yeah, I think, he's been at the heart from where fighters have turned in, Billy Joe Saunders' worst career performance under him. Josh Taylor, should have got beat. Still a travesty to this day that Jack Catterall did not get the nod. Shocking how that happened. And that should have been another loss on his record. I think Lee McGregor got away with one. Lee McGregor, I think, got a draw, lost the fight as well. Who was in the corner? Ben Davison. So, yeah, it's interesting. He's still got fighters. I think he's still got some young kids coming through, younger prospects. I think he's got one with Warren, Barney something, young lad. Got a big knockout on one of the recent cards, but he should have been doing that as well. But Davidson made a big song and dance about it. But yeah, again, one that was flying high probably, 18 months ago, and now he's no longer the favoured trainer on the market. So I've got a lot of credit, like on the podcast, Joe Gallagher's always had a lot of stake. But I have, for Gallagher, not come to like him. I've never really disliked him as such. I think, when it was the Quigg Frampton thing, he grated on you if you were a Frampton fan. Yeah. But from learning more about him, he genuinely puts his fighters first, and he wants the best deal for his fighters.
Well, do you know what turned tide for him, really? When he stood up to Eddie Hearn, didn't he?
Yeah, big time, yeah.
Him, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think a lot, do you know what? I think
he got a lot involved in that, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was.
They were all whispering campaign, and it looked like Hearn and his little cronies were trying to freeze Joe Gallagher out, didn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
I remember it all, and I remember a lot of things that I'm not going to mention on here, but I think you know a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
what they did to him were nothing short of scandalous. They tried to make out you're a racist.
Oh, yeah.
So he stood up to them all, didn't it? And he's come through it all now, and his gym's flying, isn't it?
Yeah, he's doing well. And do you know what, as well? I've always said, like, he's got a particular style, and sometimes he can be a bit stubborn in not always adapting. But, prime example, look at the way he pulled Marcus Morrison out of that fight against, oh, bloody hell, who was it against? Denzel Bentley a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Previously, he's allowed, I forget who Bentley boxed. And not Bentley, I forget who Morrison boxed. I think it might have been Jason Wellborn or something like that. And he allowed Morrison to go deep in the fight. And he was taking an absolute pasting. And he got a bit of stick for it. But he learned from this. And so, Marcus is badly busted up. We'll get the towel in now and we'll live to fight another day. Another one. He trains Mark Heffron, and he improves fighters, Gallagher.
Well, with Heffron, on he's playing.
He has, yeah, and Heffron, from following his career, has always struggled to settle with a trainer. He did some good work with Michael Jennings, who's, lives in Chorley, where I am. And I always thought it was a really good match. And then he moved away. Then Kevin Marie, his manager, trained him for a little bit. He'd move around and he seems happy. He started off at Joe Gallagher's gym. And, he'll probably finish his career at Gallagher's gym. And I think for Heffron to come out and say, he wishes he never left, he's seen the benefits of it. But a prime example is that recent card in Manchester on the Joyce card. He was offered the Jack Cullen fight. Fantastic fight, big British title fight. Sells a load of tickets, Heffron from Oldham, Cullen from Little Lever at the, Manchester Arena. It sells itself. But Heffron was on holiday when it got offered. He'd just beaten Lennox Clark, big win, won the British title, naturally gone away, with his family. He's got a young family, enjoying himself. And they offered this fight. And Gallagher basically said, it's a fight we want, just not next. He's away. He needs a bit of time off, because it was a grueling fight against Lennox Clark. And while we want it, the timing's got to be right for us. Now, some managers, and I know for a fact, would say it was decent money on offer. Their eyes would light up and think, I'm getting a slice of that pie. Or as a trainer, I'm getting a slice of that pie. We're taking it. Not factoring in the fighter's welfare. And, of course, as a boxing fan, you think, bloody hell, he's scuppered another fight. He's not ruling the fight out. He just needs it to be right for himself and for his fighter. Yeah. And, in this day and age in boxing, when we see injuries, and, you see so much stuff going on behind the scenes, the stories about people being fleeced for money, that sort of stuff. It's quite refreshing to see, and you've got to applaud him for it. And a lot of people could take a leaf out of his book and say, actually, that's a proper way to treat a fighter. Yeah, it can be frustrating, but remember, the ones who criticise him, you only ever hear one side of the story, because Gallagher doesn't always come running out and say X, Y, and Z to counteract it. He's happy just to crack on in the background, train his fighters, and go and get the wins.
Yeah. You want to click on part 2, Oz?
Yep.